Dear chosen one, you've always felt it. That silent pull in your spirit. Like someone out there was meant to find you, recognize you, and walk with you in something far greater than romance. A mission, a bond, a frequency that couldn't be faked. And yet, no matter how open your heart was, no matter how deeply you believed, something always interfered. Encounters faded, people changed, promises dissolved, and behind it all, you began to feel a strange pattern. As if something wasn't just wrong, something was being stolen. Not by chance, but by design. A force you couldn't see, but that could clearly see you. And the more your spirit awakened, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about love. It was about spiritual sabotage. A demon, hidden in plain sight, has been doing everything to keep your counterpart from reaching you. Not because you're unworthy, but because together you are unstoppable. What you were meant to build with this person goes far beyond earthly relationships. This was never about finding someone to complete you. It was about the spiritual, codes that would be unlocked the moment you met someone aligned with your purpose. A mirror, a match, a partner in light. But those who feed off confusion, stagnation, and emotional pain saw that union as a threat. So, they acted first. Not with obvious chaos, but through the subtle weapons of delay, distraction, trauma bonding, and emotional distortion. They didn't need to destroy you. They just needed to separate you. Because isolation weakens your energy field, and the heartbreak keeps you questioning your own intuition. And in that vulnerable space, you begin to wonder if you imagined the whole thing, but you didn't. What you sensed was real, and what's been hidden from you was hidden for a reason. Now, you're being called into the truth behind all of it. This message isn't here to romanticize your pain, it's here to give it meaning. There is a sacred intelligence behind the silence, and what once felt like abandonment will soon reveal itself as preparation. If you've felt delayed, disconnected, or cursed in love, I invite you to stay with me until the end of this message. Because what's been blocking this union is losing its grip. And what's been preparing you in silence is ready to emerge. If you feel this in your spirit, leave a comment below saying, "No demon can hold what's mine." Like this video and subscribe, because your healing is not entertainment. It's a divine assignment. And today, we begin the unveiling. Some soul connections are so powerful, they disrupt spiritual systems, not just your own, but those around you. When two aligned spirits come together in divine timing, they don't just experience love. They awaken codes, they clear ancestral wounds, and they activate purpose at a level that threatens every dark force feeding off confusion. That's why your union was targeted before it even had the chance to fully begin. The interference wasn't random, it was a calculated move. Because if you had come into union with that soul at the time you were meant to, you would have bypassed years of spiritual programming that was designed to keep you small. This is why so many of your connections never made it to the next level. This is why the right one always seemed just out of reach, as if the moment was never quite right. What many people call bad timing is often energetic manipulation. What looks like misalignment is frequently a spiritual barrier placed there to block access. You may have noticed the patterns, relationships that almost worked, connections that felt divine but ended in silence, moments of deep recognition followed by sudden withdrawal. It's not that your discernment was wrong, it's that something didn't want that bond to solidify. Because if it did, You both would begin to see through the illusions that had controlled you for lifetimes. You would break the programming. You would reclaim your gifts. And once that happened, you could no longer be used by the system that profits from spiritual disconnection. The one who was meant to walk beside you has been kept in a fog, not because they're weak, but because they carry something sacred too. And that sacredness makes them a threat. So the attacks were strategic. They were offered false comfort, temptations, loops of emotional chaos that kept them doubting their own intuition. They were drawn into karmic cycles that promised validation, but robbed them of alignment. And while they were busy trying to survive in the wrong places, you were left feeling abandoned, invisible, forgotten. But spiritually, you were not forgotten. You were being set apart. Because if you had chased them in that state, you would have entered their illusion, and your light would have been consumed trying to rescue someone who wasn't ready to see. And that's exactly what the enemy wanted. For you to burn out your light in a rescue mission you were never meant to carry. Your role wasn't to save them. It was to stay in alignment long enough that your vibration would begin to ripple through the fog. You weren't being punished with delay. You were being protected from drowning in their spiritual confusion. The separation, as painful as it's been, was mercy in disguise. It forced you inward. It made you question not just the relationship, but your essence, your mission, your very identity. And in that silent searching, you began to uncover something priceless: your self-possession, your ability to walk alone in truth. You see, the demon hiding your soulmate was never after them alone. It was after you. It wanted to break your spirit by making love look like a lie. It wanted to harden your heart through disappointment. It wanted to turn your softness into suspicion and your faith into numbness. But what it underestimated was your resilience. Because even through the silence, the waiting, the ache, you kept listening. You kept feeling. You kept choosing to believe that your story wasn't over. And that spiritual defiance, that refusal to numb yourself, became your greatest protection. Even now, that demon is losing grip. Not because it chose to leave, but because it cannot survive in the light you're now radiating. The fog is lifting not through force, but through frequency. You're no longer reaching for love out of lack. You're calling it from wholeness. And that changes everything, because a union built on wholeness can't be manipulated. It becomes spiritually immune to false contracts, to illusionary soul ties, to karmic replacements. And that's why your healing has taken time. You weren't just recovering from heartbreak. You were being rewired for divine union. And now, the question isn't just, where is my soulmate? The question is, who have I become in their absence? Because the person you're becoming is the key. The version of you that emerged through the pain, through the silence, through the spiritual drought, that's the version who's finally ready. Not to chase someone, but to meet them, eye to eye, soul to soul, in alignment, not desperation. And that's exactly what the enemy feared all along. There's a unique kind of pain that comes from waiting for something your soul remembers, but your eyes can't see. It's not like ordinary heartbreak. It's not just about missing someone. It's about feeling a part of your spiritual purpose being withheld. And when the one you felt destined to walk with disappears, pulls away, or drifts into other timelines, the ache isn't just emotional. It becomes existential. You start to wonder if you made it all up, if the intensity you felt was just imagination. But deep down, something keeps whispering, no, that was real. And that whisper is not coming from your ego. It's coming from the memory of your soul. That's what makes this so hard to explain to others. To them, it might seem like you're holding on to a fantasy, but only you know the depth of what you felt. The alignment, the electricity, the way time shifted in their presence. Only you know how it woke something up in you that had been dormant for years. And only you know how strange it felt when that person started to pull away. Not with anger, but with confusion. Almost as if they didn't even know why they were leaving. That's how spiritual interference works. It doesn't scream, it whispers doubt, it feeds fog, it reroutes a soul with the illusion that they're choosing freely, when in fact, their clarity has been hijacked. This is where the emotional exhaustion begins. You try to stay open, to forgive, to trust divine timing. But after a while, the patterns start to wear on your spirit. You give chances, you wait for signs, and still silence. Still, nothing moves. And the deeper pain isn't even their absence. It's the question that begins to echo in your spirit. Am I being punished for believing in something sacred? But you're not being punished. You're being purified. Because the kind of union you're destined for cannot be built on spiritual residue. It must be built on clarity, on sovereignty, on truth that doesn't shake when tested. What the enemy wanted was for you to get tired, to settle, to start thinking maybe you were asking for too much. Maybe you should just lower your frequency and choose what's available. That way, your gifts would stay dormant, your light would dim, and the mission that depended on your full spiritual activation would never happen. That's why the demon didn't need to destroy you. It only needed to distract you, delay you long enough that you'd start dimming yourself just to feel connected. And let's be honest, there were moments you almost did, but you didn't. Somehow, even through the disappointment, you kept returning to your center. And that's what they never expected, that you would be the one who stays clear, the one who keeps their heart open without letting it be abused, the one who waits, not in victimhood, but in awareness. You weren't waiting for them to come back. You were waiting for the veil to lift, for the fog to clear, for both of you to rise into the frequency that makes reunion possible. Because this kind of love doesn't come through effort. It comes through alignment. And while your counterpart may still be stuck in false timelines, your energy is no longer available to be drained by that delay. You're not hoping from a place of lack anymore. You're anchoring from a place of truth. The power you carry now is no longer reactive. It's magnetic. And even if they can't see it yet, your vibration is calling everything that's truly meant for you to rise, including them, if they choose it, if they're willing to break the illusion, if they're ready to remember who they are and who you've always been. This is the part of the story where things begin to shift, not because the pain ended, but because you stopped resisting its purpose. You started asking different questions. Instead of, why did they leave? You began to ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, when will they return? You started wondering, who am I becoming while they're gone? And that shift, from chasing closure to claiming your growth, is what began to unravel the spell. The one that's been hiding them, and the one that's been holding you back from rising fully. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the pain becomes so loud, it either breaks you down or breaks you open. And without even realizing it, you chose to break open. You didn't escape into bitterness or disconnect from feeling. You stayed. You listened. And in doing so, You activated a level of spiritual awareness the enemy never expected you to reach. What was meant to paralyze you ended up initiating you. The fog began to lift, not because they came back, but because you came home to yourself. Sometimes, the separation isn't just an attack. It's a permission from God, not to make you suffer, but to make you see. See what you were still chasing. See where your identity was attached to outcomes. It wasn't punishment. It was purification. While you grieved, your vibration grew. The darkness began to lose jurisdiction over your path the moment you stopped doubting your worth. Your healing wasn't just personal. It started shaking every timeline built on the assumption that you'd stay wounded. You woke up, and that shifted everything. You weren't separated to chase them. You were separated to become whole. And now, without effort or force, your resonance is echoing into the unseen. They may feel it, not through words, but through a deep stirring, an ancient memory reawakening. Because real connection never dies. It just gets buried under fear and programming. When one soul heals, everything rearranges. And if they are truly yours, they will remember. Your job is not to wait, explain, or pursue. Your job is to remain aligned, because alignment is the key. Reunion, if it's meant, will come not by force, but by frequency. You were never meant to wait in pain. You were meant to evolve in silence. What once felt like abandonment was actually an invitation to turn inward, to rediscover your identity without needing a mirror in someone else. And in doing so, you found something far greater than external validation. You found your own presence. You realized your energy doesn't require a partner to be powerful. It can shift atmospheres, reclaim lost parts of you, and break spiritual chains. That's the real miracle. Not that they returned, but that you did. Divine timing isn't about dates. It's about vibrational readiness. It's the moment when both souls have shed ego, fear, and projection, and can meet again from a place of remembrance and alignment. That's why it had to take time. Not because God delayed your blessing, but because the version of you who is now ready simply didn't exist back then. And the version of them that matches your light may still be unfolding. And if they never rise, if they stay entangled in old timelines, then God sends someone else, not a substitute, but a reflection of who you are now. Your preparation was never in vain. This is your turning point, when you stop seeing love as a prize and start seeing it as a mirror. You attract what you embody, and you now embody sovereignty, truth, and clarity, not despite heartbreak, but because of how you transformed through it. What the enemy hoped would leave you numb has only made you wise. You no longer confuse pain with love or chaos with connection. You no longer chase closure. You carry completion. Because this was never about getting them back. It was always about getting you back. And now, your peace no longer depends on who stays or goes. It's rooted in the unshakable discernment of your spirit. The war was never about them. It was about whether you would still trust the truth within you, even when everything outside told you not to. The truth is, you didn't lose your soulmate. You were given the time and space to remember yourself so deeply that no one could ever be mistaken for your mirror again. That's not loss, that's liberation. You stopped chasing people who weren't ready. You stopped lowering your frequency just to feel connection. And in doing so, you became the kind of soul who magnetizes real alignment. The kind of soul that no longer attracts chaos disguised as chemistry. That no longer opens doors to what does not honor the sacred. You walked through the fire. You let it burn away the illusion. And what remained is you. Unshakable, whole, clear. You're not waiting for love anymore. You're walking in love. You've become the answer to the prayers you used to whisper through tears. And that's why they're feeling you again. Not because you reached out, not because you're still attached, but because your silence has become louder than your words ever were. Because your frequency has shifted so drastically that even those who tried to forget you can't ignore what's rising now. They feel it in dreams, in flashes, in moments of inexplicable longing that they can't trace. They may not have the language for it, but they feel you. Because your energy, once tied to pain, is now encoded with power. And that kind of energy creates a ripple in the spiritual world. Whether it brings them back or simply awakens them into their own healing, one thing is certain: your transformation is undeniable. Still, this journey was never just about being seen. It was about seeing yourself, about realizing that you were always the one carrying the key, not to unlock someone else's heart, but to unlock the gates that were holding your own expansion back. And you did it. You didn't give up when everything looked lost. You didn't harden when love disappeared. You stayed tender, awake, devoted to truth, even when it hurt, even when it was thankless. That's a kind of spiritual integrity few people ever embody. And because of that, something divine has been set in motion. Not a reward for your suffering, but a mirror of your frequency. What's rising now is not compensation. It's reflection. Whether the one you were separated from returns in clarity, or whether someone new is sent to meet you in your elevation, the truth remains. You will not be met with less than you are. The days of dimming your light just to be chosen are over. The cycles of emotional chasing are broken. You've outgrown the need to be needed. And now, only alignment can stand in your presence. Only truth. Only spirit. That's what happens when you stop entertaining potential and start living in purpose. You don't beg to be loved, you become love. You don't wait to be seen. You see yourself so clearly that others have no choice but to rise or disappear. And those who can't rise, they will fall away naturally. Not with drama, not with resentment, but with clarity. Because once you've known what it means to live in spiritual alignment, anything less begins to feel like noise. You no longer bond through wounds. You connect through vision, through peace, through the quiet knowing that love does not require performance. It requires presence. And presence is what you've cultivated in this wilderness. That's why this version of you is so magnetic. You're no longer reaching, you're receiving. You're no longer hoping, you're holding. And what you're holding is sacred. Your truth, your frequency, your calling. That's the real prize. Not them, not the relationship, but your full return to yourself. And now, your story is shifting. Not because someone else changed, but because you did. You changed the way you see, the way you choose, the way you value your own time, your own love, your own vibration. And that shift has created a new timeline, one where you don't just attract love, you embody it. One where you don't wait for a door to open, you become the door. And everything that's meant to find you will. Not through force, but through frequency. Because divine alignment cannot be rushed, but it also cannot be stopped. This entire time, You thought you were waiting for someone to come home, but the truth is, you were the one returning to your essence, to your clarity, to the version of you that doesn't beg for connection, but breathes connection into every space you enter. And in that return, everything began to shift. What once rejected you was forced to recognize you. What once ignored you started to remember you. Not because they suddenly changed, but because your energy no longer matched their illusion. You became a living mirror, a sacred reminder. And even if they never speak it out loud, something in them knows. You were never the one who was lost. Now you see clearly. This wasn't about romance. It wasn't about getting someone back. It was about your emancipation, your divine rebellion against every spiritual narrative that told you to shrink, to wait, to compromise your truth just to be seen. And now, you don't just see, you know. You know what your spirit carries. You know what your presence activates. You know what your love awakens. And no one, not a demon, not a delay, not even a distorted version of your soulmate, can unknow what you've now remembered. That's the breakthrough. Not that they come back, but that you came alive. And yet, the beauty of spiritual law is this: what is yours by alignment will never miss you. If their soul is coded to walk with yours, they will rise, not because you demanded it, but because your frequency called it forth. And if not, someone else will. Someone who was also being forged in silence. Someone who also chose growth over comfort. And when you meet, it won't be dramatic. It won't be chaotic. It will be clear. It will be right. Because divine love doesn't come to confuse you. It comes to confirm you. And now, you're ready for confirmation. Not because you need it, but because you're finally whole enough to hold it. So, take a breath. Not the breath of waiting, but the breath of release. You've carried so much. You've transmuted so much. And now it's time to walk differently. Not in hope, but in truth. Not in longing, but in peace. The war over your love life was never just about emotion. It was about power. And now, that power has returned to its rightful place. Within you. You are no longer the one being chased by doubt. You are the one who stands in clarity, watching illusions fall away. Not with bitterness, but with wisdom. You didn't just survive the spiritual sabotage. You transcended it. If this message touched something ancient in you, leave a comment below saying, "What is mine returns by truth, not by force." Let your voice be part of this ripple. Like this video if your energy has shifted. And subscribe if you know. Your healing journey is not over. It's only deepening. I want to thank everyone who supports us through Buy Me a Coffee. Your support helps us improve our videos every day and always offer the best content. If you want to support us too, the link is in the first pinned comment. You've walked through fire and came out sovereign. And from here forward, may every connection that approaches you be required to meet you at the level of your awakening. This is your time, your crown, your return, and nothing can stop what's aligned in truth. You are the breakthrough.